Well, hey there, page chasers. I'm Jolene, and I'm going to be talking to you about my favorite audiobooks that came out this year. So buckle up, it's going to be a journey. As you may know, I am the resident audiobook enthusiast. I spam the blog constantly with my top audiobook suggestions, things I'm just jamming on. And so I thought I'd put together a list of some of the audiobooks that I really enjoyed this year, and we can just sort of dive in and have a good time. Book 1, Serial Killer's Daughter by Kerri Rawson. This book is wild. It is in every way that is good. Kerri Rawson is the daughter of the BTK killer. And this is a story that is both true crime and also a memoir. So it's got this really interesting inside look into what it means to be in a situation that you have no control over, but at the same time are trying to deal with your own internal feelings about a person who is doing something that is horrifically wrong. In this case, killing people. So this has got a really unique perspective that I think a lot of true crime novels don't have, which is you have the inside look and what it means to be a person who knew somebody that did horrific things, but knew him also as like a dad and somebody that they loved. So I think this is a really interesting audiobook in the sense that you get to see the true crime aspect, which I'm a big fan of a good true crime audiobook, but it also dives into the internal conflict that Kerri was going through while the trial was happening, some of the things that she noticed after the fact that were truly super interesting and also heartbreaking to a lot of extent, but it comes out hopeful in the end. Kerri shares her faith and what brought her through something that was really tough. So the reason I love the audiobook too is the narrator, Devin O'Day, does a fantastic job handling this. I think it could be easy in audiobooks to make it very like journalistic and not bring any warmth to this, and it really needed some warmth, and I think the narrator does a spectacular job. So the audiobook is, I think, one that you should maybe seek out even if you read the book, because it really gives a certain personality to Kerri's story. So first pick of the year, Serial Killer's Daughter by Kerri Rawson. Go check it out. Book 2. I just dropped some of my Jolly Juice. Have a sip. Okay, so book 2 is by Jemar Tisby. It's called The Color of Compromise. It is fascinating for many reasons. 1, I'm a nerd. 2, I'm a history nerd. So check and check. Checks all those boxes. It dives into the church and how, specifically the American church, and how we've handled race within the church. Jemar Tisby has a fantastic podcast that I've listened to in the past. Dives into many topics, but this one I think is super interesting. It takes history in a way that maybe I don't think gets taught in our history books especially, and really exposes what's been happening with race within the church. And I think it's a discussion that is not only relevant always, but something that I think has been coming up, that we've been talking about a lot lately, and Jemar handles it in a graceful and very educational sort of way, so that he kind of guides you through that history piece that I don't think I've really had the chance to dive into before. And like I said, I'm a podcast nerd because that's what audiobook people do. And so he has a fantastic podcast. Definitely check that out as well. He narrates the audiobook as well, so he definitely has that personal touch. The next book is The Greatest You by Trent Shelton. Trent Shelton is a treasure of a human being. I don't know if you've ever followed him on Facebook. He has about 8 million of them, of us following him, but he is truly a motivational person and just incredibly optimistic. I just feel like optimism is something that we could do more with. Speaking of optimism, that's good. So Trent is a fantastic narrator in this audiobook. He does all the narration for The Greatest You. And I just feel like if you can't be motivated in The Greatest You, there's some, like, go check your wiring, because something had connected. You need to plug into Trent Shelton. Also, this time of year, you're thinking, what am I gonna do for next year? How is next year gonna be better? Trent Shelton's gonna help you, I think. Next up is Romanov by Nadine Brandis. Nadine is a fantastic writer, and this book has 3 things I love. Anastasia, a good, like, supernatural, magical element, and 3, it's got romance that's well done. So it kind of checks all the boxes for me. So this one is really well done in audio too. I think the narrator did a fantastic job bringing the characters to life, and the world itself is really, it feels very real and tactile. So definitely go give this one a listen, especially if you're just looking for a good escape. Sometimes we just need a good escape. Next, A Dream Too Big by Caylin Moore. Caylin Moore is a treasure of a human being. I had the chance to actually meet him at one point, and he's just a gem. So that said, this is his story. It's kind of a true rise above what the situations you might be in. He had a really rough childhood, just growing up in Compton and trying to rise above the situation he was in terms of being in a place where there was just lots of gang activity, that the violence was just always a threat in his neighborhood. And he became a Rhodes Scholar and went to Oxford. And I feel like coming out of something like that and being such a true optimistic and kind person that he is, and that you really get to tell in the book, is a story that we kind of always need and is always good to have, even if you're feeling kind of down about the world. This is a good one. Caylin will make you feel better about people in the world around you. So definitely would suggest this one. It's a great listen. I listened to it while I was commuting and not feeling good about traffic. So, if you need some optimism, there you go. If you're in a place where you're doing the chores you don't really want to do, you feel good after listening to A Dream Too Big by Caylin Moore. The next one that I'm going to talk about has a lot of feelings, because it's by Rachel Held Evans, who passed away this year. And she was very special to a lot of people. But she wrote a book called Searching for Sunday, and it didn't come out this year. I just listened to it this year, early in the year. And Rachel was a unique voice for a lot of people. And I feel like her spiritual journey was really important, that I got to listen to it. I relate to it a lot. And I think it's something that is unique and a lot of people need to hear. I am sad that we don't get to hear more from her, but I think her message was put out for a reason. To round off the year, it's kind of a unique audiobook because it's based off a podcast that came out by the amazing Patti Callahan, who wrote Becoming Mrs. Lewis. And it's actually based on that book that she wrote, which is the love story between Joy Davidman and C.S. Lewis. And I've written about my complete fangirlness of Joy Davidman and C.S. Lewis a couple times on the blog. So I'm in for this. The audiobook is going to contain all the podcast episodes. So the podcast episodes had, for the first one, they had Douglas Gresham, who was the stepson to C.S. Lewis and Joy Davidman's son. He talked with Patti Callahan about his experience growing up with C.S. Lewis, about his mother, about how, the two influenced each other in their writings and their works and their faith. And then she goes on to talk to many experts who have dedicated a large part of their life's work to studying Lewis and Joy, and how the two were so important in each other's lives, and especially when we think of Lewis as being kind of this faith icon. His work, some of his greatest work, came from his relationship with Joy. And to really dive deep into that is super fascinating. If you're a book nerd at all and just like love to see how work is crafted by people's outside relationships, I think this is a must listen for you. Which, if you're watching this, you have to be a book nerd. I don't know how you got this far, listening to me ramble about books without that being the case. So I would definitely go give this one a listen. You can listen to 7 of the podcast episodes anywhere you like to listen to podcasts. And then the audiobook's going to have 2 bonus episodes. You get even more. One is with Max McLean, who is an actor, owns a play performance company, has done tons of works, including The Shadowlands by C.S. Lewis, or not by C.S. Lewis, but about C.S. Lewis. And the second guest will be Diana Glyer, who is an expert on Inklings. So she's going to dive into how Lewis's relationship with the Inklings affected his relationship with Joy and vice versa. And I think it'll be really interesting point of view that I haven't heard anything about. So I'm excited about that episode. I'm going to definitely get the audiobook to hear more about it. It also includes some bonus chapters from Becoming Mrs. Lewis. So if you read the book, love it, you want more, I think you should definitely listen to that one. That was a wrap up, y'all. We got the feels going on. We got some gems of human beings in there. We have a good story. We have a serial killer. What more could you possibly want? You can't. I covered it all. So good day to you. And thank you for joining me for the audiobook wrap up for this year. Let me know what of your favorite audiobooks were in the comments, and we could talk about it. And also, Merry Christmas and have a great holiday, and you'll hear more from us from the Page Chaser team. We'll be back in January talking about the next year's new and cool books, and make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We party there too. Y'all have a fantastic end of the year. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year, festivities all around.